Hey guys, the Hide Guy, Ken Maxfield, and here I am on our market recap for week ending November the 23rd. Week started out this week with offer list once again very populated by packers as well as processors. Offer list remained heavily loaded towards plenty of jumbo and super jumbo steer offers that we've been talking about now here going on close to a month. Still lots of native steers for sale, as well as wet blue. And something new this week, there seemed to be a few more offers of butt branded steers, which had not been offered for the last couple, 3 weeks by several of the different packers. An interesting thing on asking prices, most packers left offers steady, although one of the packers made some substantial reduction on their asking prices, and this was being interpreted as an effort by them to bring their asking prices back in closer to where actually prices were trading. So some of the other ones lowered their prices by $1 or two. Another thing worth noting is the shipping time on a lot of the selections offered were now for December shipment as opposed to December, Jan, or even January, February. I think the trade is starting to see through that these packers may not be sold as far as they have been advertising to people. Of course, there was the Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday, so offers did come out a touch earlier, trying to get maybe something done before most people left for their holiday Wednesday afternoon. Most offices, if they were open, only had a skeleton crew on Friday. So at least through Wednesday, I can tell you interest was okay. I think a little better than last week. Of course, it always helps if people are willing to take less money. Talking to some of the more astute buyers in the marketplace and buyers who are known to be one of the first people that packers would come to when they need to make offers, I'm being told by them that there is no shortage of offers as far as what they're seeing. Of course, everybody offering to these respective tanners are asking them if they're going to buy anything to please give them first consideration. Quantities are negotiable, prices negotiable, and of course shipments, they're going to be looking for them sooner rather than later. So I would say it was a decent week of sales. I think next week you'll see a decent number on the export report. As far as cow hides, same as big packer hides, lots of offers. Many of the hides, in fact, if not all the selections offered, could now ship certainly in December. I don't know of any selection that's really sold through the month of December. Possibly maybe a few dairy cows by a couple producers, but I just think it's the same situation. It's just, the Hebei area in China remains closed for all intents and purposes due to pollution issues and the government closing that area down by cutting off the power. So demand for cows, lackluster, lots of cow hides being offered not only in the U.S. but globally, and that's just making things really hard. Trading, I would say, roughly a $0.50 to $1 lower on most selections across the board. Harvest last week with the holiday came in at $5.70. That compares to $6.41 last week, $5.75 a year ago. Export report came out on Friday, again because of the holiday. Sales of wet salted hides, 326,100. Certainly nothing to write home about. In fact, it's almost 10% lower than last week, down almost 22% on a 4-week average. Net sales of wet blue were, better than they have been, 105,600. That's up 34% versus last week, as well as, it's up almost double what it was last week, and 34% versus the 4-week average. That said, looks like, again, we had more hides produced last week than what were sold. Going around the globe real quick, in Europe, things are getting tough. Those who sell bulls to the automotive people are not having a lot of success because of the reduction in their soaking numbers. Bull prices are off about, call it a short 10 cents, about 7-8 cents a kilo in the last couple of weeks. Cows still difficult to sell. I've heard rumors of $18 delivered on cows. So, and that's delivered China. Ox heifers, they're off not as much as either the cows or the bulls, but they're also trading lower too. Reports of lots of hides for sale in Europe. sellers struggling to accept the lower idea of buyers, and at the end of the day, probably not enough hides being bought versus hides being produced. Brazil, no change in that situation either, folks. Lots of pressure to sell. Trading levels, I'll call them a very weak steady. I believe the rumblings of trading at lower levels, but haven't had it confirmed yet, but it's more than likely happening. Australia, they're trying to hold it together best they can. If it's not a cowhide, I think they have been able to hold it steady because on lower volumes being harvested. Cows under pressure, I think they're off $1 last week there. So looking ahead to next week, our week ended up here in the States with lots of finger point going on. The Packers were taking levels much lower than what they were advertising on various price guides and conversations to other people. I think you're going to see big offer list. I think Packers are probably going to have to bite the bullet, lower their ask just to start some conversations with some people. But my still thought process is if prices are going to change, there's a much better likelihood they go lower before they go higher. And I think we might be even looking at some substantial corrections before we get to the bottom of this market. That's it for now. Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy. Check out my website, www.themaxfieldreport.com. I offer 14-day free trials. Take advantage of that. Until next week, we'll talk to you then.